Today, there's an update video on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and not just that. We'll also take a look at various altcoins because we have some open positions from my last videos that are currently in profit. There's HBAR, and then we also have Cardano, but I also have several other open positions. For example, AVAX, which is currently still struggling a bit. I'll show you in a moment which new entries I have planned for Ethereum, which is still open. I also have a position in Link and Litecoin. I'm also looking at Solana, and what we might go through again, if I don't forget, is AVAX. AVAX is also very, very interesting at the moment. The trading bots from the video before last, where I mentioned Doty and Rune, those are all in profit now as well. So that was a really brilliant call I made here because these have actually been profitable from day one. And I also have something else for you coming soon. Through my private Bitunix account, a small landing page where you can see my active trading bots and also track all the parameters and settings, because that's just a funded account. I'll set that aside once my last test is finished, where I still wanted to determine what is the best grid spacing. That's still an ongoing test which will be completed, and then everything will continue only through my private account. Before we start looking for new long entries, where of course you could also place grid trading bots on these entries, let's take a look at a few other things. Because right now, and I shared this yesterday on Telegram, if you're on Bitget, check your coupon center from time to time. Yesterday I went into the coupon center under task and found an incredible number of vouchers there. One that I activated yesterday, which I shared on Telegram, is a futures DCA special offer. If I start a futures DCA bot with at least 1000 USDT and let it run for 24 hours, I get a 3000 USDT position voucher for a DCA bot. That's absolutely brilliant. For those who don't know what that is, check out my channel, 100% passive income on autopilot. There I explain in detail how it works, how these trading bots have been generating passive income for me for almost 2 years now. You can do the same thing yourself. And that's exactly why this voucher is super interesting. There are also many others that I have in there. I can open a spot grid bot with $500 US and get $200 US back as a voucher if I let it run for at least 24 hours. But there are also a few others. This one here, for example, another spot grid. If I invest $100 US in a spot grid for 24 hours, I get $100 US back. Hey, these are some really crazy vouchers that Bitget is offering right now. So if you're already on Bitget, make sure to check the coupon center and look under the tasks to see what you need to do to get these. And if you're not on Bitget yet, I have a link in the video description. You'll get VIP2 status for 15 days plus a $50 US bonus. You can check that out, and for everyone who is already registered with me on Bitget, you have the opportunity with the second link, which I also shared on Telegram, to simply get the VIP Pass 1 for 15 days, and you'll also receive an additional $200 US as a spot grid positions voucher and another $200 US as a futures position boost. All right? That's included here as well. That's for everyone who is already on board, or if you've registered and maybe already completed the VIP2 trial, you can still do this afterwards. For this month, there are still 5 slots open in total so that my community members who registered with my link can claim it. But that's enough about that for now. Let's take a quick look at the trading bots. This is the one I opened yesterday specifically to get the $3,000 position voucher. I also have Spot Martingale running here. That's a $5,000, a $1,600 US voucher. You can see here that both of these are in profit. I also have Spot Grid, and I opened that in the video before last. This Rune, I said I would put $500 into a Spot Grid bot in Rune. Why? Because I still have one here that's in the red and outside my range. And also this Ethereum one here, it has performed so well, this Spot Grid bot, that it's outside my range. The range is at $4,400 US, and we're currently above that. Other than that, there are also a lot of good positions. Here, Bitcoin. This is a small one with just over $100 in profit. Here are a few larger positions as well, at least the Ethereum one with over 20,000. This one here is just under $3,000 US in profit. That's $200 in the Solana trade. Then I also accumulated a few open positions worth a few $100s on Bitunix, which are now in here, and we'll take a look at them together now. Because these are the positions that I opened together with you. I don't remember exactly. I think it was in a video where I went through these. That was actually one of the last videos. Here, these 4 altcoins are the ones I'm trading now. I shared it live with you, how I made my entries. Many thanks to everyone who helped reach these subscriptions in the last video. So I would really appreciate it if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. I'm really working on bringing you as much valuable content as possible. But AVAX, according to this trading principle, which you can also find on my channel, and I'll link it again at the end, is currently in profit. But it doesn't really want to rise the way, for example, Cardano has. You can see it here. Cardano actually called out wonderfully. In this video, we had this 0.6 weight entry perfectly, and it's also currently in profit. And here, the stop loss is already set to break even. I also shared that in the group. So Cardano is now a fixed position. H bar exactly the same. Hey, that was just such a clean entry. Take a look at this. Yeah, after this long correction, now we have an uptrend. That was basically an insanely good sniper entry that we managed to catch here. And for me, just as further confirmation, if I go down here, when I draw this downtrend along the candle highs again, I can see that we had a bit of rejection here for a short moment. And at this point in time, we're still above it. That doesn't mean we might not go down again, but for me right now, it's a wonderful opportunity to just let the trade run without taking profits too early. I'll only do that once we reach this candle high here, then I'll realize a small portion of profits. Now let's continue with Ethereum. Ethereum is actually very, very interesting. I still believe, even though we are currently experiencing a bit of hype again because we've gone up and had another price pump, you can see here Ethereum has risen 2% in the last 24 hours. Despite all that, I still have my position here at the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement at $4,155. Why? Let's take a look at this together when we go to the liquidation heat map. And this is what's interesting. If you combine this trading strategy with the Fibonacci retracement and the liquidation heat map, you'll see at which Fibonacci level it would actually be ideal to find an entry opportunity. We can see here that we now have a liquidation cluster at 4,216, but it goes down to about $4,130. And we're talking about a week here. Now let's go back. Where do we have the liquidation cluster? Exactly, at $4,130. That would be roughly here. And even if you might not want to accept it before jumping blindly into a long position, and since we could still see a correction down to here, I would rather have a perfect entry down below than take a bad trade by opening one here and then watching the price drop. When could you open another trade? Of course, when we break out of this exact consolidation here. Because we've bounced up and down several times now, and of course, if we break through around $4,500 to the upside, we would also have the possibility to say, let's do it with a retest and finally manage to move higher again. As long as that doesn't happen and we don't get a confirmed breakout above, this position will remain open for me due to the liquidation zone. And also, this shouldn't be forgotten, we've had so many bounces down here. We've been finding support again and again the whole time. This means that below this support, where new longs have been entering repeatedly, there's naturally a cluster here where liquidations are located. And that's exactly what you can see here on the liquidation map. It's all below this liquidation and a quick wick that just sweeps everything out, just like what happened here. I don't know if you noticed, if you looked at the liquidation heat map a few days ago, we continued to have consolidation here and we really had a candle downwards that took this out. And that lit up super bright yellow, similar to what just happened here. That's why Ethereum is my next entry, which I still have open. I would only adjust new entries if we make a move above that so I can see how things develop. My other one is still Link. Guys, Link is still open. Yeah. These are my entries here based on the Fibonacci level. As long as we don't break through this resistance we have here to the upside, I wouldn't set any new entries here either, but rather leave it as it is for now. What am I watching for here with Link? Because we have a downtrend here, there is a chance that we could get rejected somewhere. Yeah. For example, the 0.5 level at $24.86 could be a possibility, or maybe even a bit earlier. We'd have to see at $24.29 or here at $23.91. But I need to observe that first and then compare it with the liquidation heat map. At the moment, as long as we don't break above this level, it stays that way. And it's exactly the same with Litecoin. We also haven't reached my entry there yet, even though this is really looking great now. And it seems like we're starting to leave the downtrend here as well. But I wouldn't necessarily rely on that for things to work out here. But you can see here we had a breakout, then support formed exactly on this line, and now we've had another pump. What could indicate here that we might go down again? One possibility would be to say, okay, that was our last low. And maybe we go back down to the area around $120 and then get a rejection to pick this up here and also to pick up this order block down here where this volume was as well. Unless, of course, we keep pumping, but those are things I would analyze later. Solana was then very exciting for me. Guys, that was just really crazy. At the moment, I have a new Solana entry prepared for myself. I'm going to remove the other things now. You know, the last trade here was negative for Solana. I didn't do anything there. I'm just going to move everything to the side for a moment so we have a clear overview. I'm also moving the positive trade here to the side. So what have we done now? After this downtrend, we've now broken through this last high and also this second high upwards. What's super interesting is now we have two possibilities for an entry. The first entry would be between $212 and $209 depending on how far we might drop, if we do of course, or the price continues to rise and our Fibonacci levels move up accordingly, giving us new areas of interest. At the current moment, this is still set up like this for me, but that's not all. Of course, we're also looking at the liquidation heat map again. And what's also interesting to me is this. If we go in here, just as a small example, and I draw another Fibonacci from this low here to this high, then in my opinion, probably the 0.608 level, or from the second one, the 0.5 level. So around 209 to 210 US dollars, because we have an overlap in the Fibonacci levels here with the larger one at 0.5 and the smaller one at 0.6. That would probably be the more valid entry point in this case. If we compare that, where is the next liquidation cluster for Solana? And you can see that it would start here at around 210 US dollars and go down to about 205 US dollars. And of course, the more we fall, the more people will try to go long again here. Then we'll have to analyze again, where is the cluster located? But between here, between 210 and 205 US dollars, that's why I might even take this second entry. So leave this one out. 210 US dollars as an option, and maybe also the 206 if we include that with the liquidation map here. If we really pick up everything here, then that would be 0618 as the entry. And that would be my Solana entry, the way I'm preparing it right now. I'll save that and bring back the other trades, but this is the option I see for now, unless of course we keep going up, then I'll adjust it again. Overall, I'm definitely still bullish on Solana. That means not only my position, which I still have open here, but I would also like to open another new position. Why? Let's zoom out a bit and take a look at the current trend, because we had a downtrend here that was broken to the upside, and now we have an uptrend coming in. And if we look at this using the Fibonacci extension, that means taking our low with the breakout upwards to the last low we had and using this as the price target level. Yes. If you don't know it yet, the video, I can only recommend you check it out. How pros trade. I really explained it in detail there. It's the simplest method to predict price targets, but 99% don't use it. And you can see that for Solana right now, the potential target zone for this current uptrend is really between 261 and 317 US dollars. And that means for me, I continue to look for long entries, or I also scale my still open position somewhere into this price range here in order to close it there. And to see how reliable this works, let's take a quick look at AVAX now. I also shared this again on Telegram because it was an analysis based on a few questions. And it was roughly when the price was here that I said, okay, after this entry, if you take this breakout, that would be our target zone. And I think you really can't get much more precise than this here. I mean, this candle has right on point perfectly closed so far at this Fibonacci extension level of 2. And the next possibility I see here with AVAX, if we remove this and also take away this entry and also remove this here so we can see the chart a bit more clearly, where would we have entry points now? And here you can also see a live analysis, another one showing how I proceed, even if from my perspective, this level has already been worked through. Because we moved up, reached the entry and then continued to rise. Despite all that, I still see the possibility that we have two new entry points here, the 0.5 and the 0.618 at this point in time. Here as well, I proceed as follows. I look up the liquidation heat map, and in this case, it would be the 3-day liquidation heat map. You can see here we have a strong cluster at 28 US dollars. That would go down to about $27.40. Do I compare that? Where would that be? In my opinion, that would still be a bit too little. So what would be the option here now? We have a fair value gap here, and this is exactly the fair value gap that we're using here. These 27, I want to check the middle because it's often only closed up to the middle. That's now about 27.69 US dollars. That could fall roughly into this area here, where we say, okay, we take this fair value gap, take this opportunity for liquidations, half of the fair value gap is closed, and then it can continue to rise. Personally, I trade this kind of thing, but very reluctantly, because if we look at this here, exactly this fair value gap goes down to here. That means a lot of massive volume came in here, which of course drove the price up. We've reached a target level. And that's why, for me, it could now be more likely that we continue to go down. The next problem I currently see with AVAX, and I don't trade AVAX that often, but here at around $25.50, we simply have a massive cluster. And now I'm talking about 3 days. So let's take a look at $25.50 here. That would be the 0.618 level. And that means for me, if I include this here, I would actually skip the 0.5 and rather trade the $25.50 level again, because according to the liquidation level, that would be more interesting to me. If we get a correction and really go in, that's where we should stop. Because if we then go to the weekly chart, the next level would actually only be at $24 to $23. And I don't want to bet yet that we'll go down that far, because that would be the 0.786 to 22. But that doesn't mean we won't still reach that level. We can see that if 0.5 and 0.618 don't hold, we still have the possibility to go into the 0.786 level. But I would see it like this. If we include this here now, and we know this 0.786 level, where would that be if I include it here and look for an overlap? Yes, at 0.786 and the major Fibonacci level, yes, there is actually an almost perfect overlap at 0.681 when looking at the major level. If I now switch to the daily chart here, for example, and take this breakout, then from this low to the current high, the 0.681 would be at $24.24. And the smaller one we have here, the 0.786, would be at $24.43. That means my entries here would then be based on saying I have my entry here, which I take here. You know how I set my stop loss? I always set it just before that. And if this entry doesn't hold, I would then take this second entry here. I would completely skip the 0.5. I know nobody wants us to go down that far, but simply based on this analysis I've just done here, I would say that with the 0.618 and 0.786, we have a possible opportunity here. We can also see that this fair value gap on the daily chart is really big, this candle, but that we go down here, pick that up, and then continue to rise. All right, that's it for my analysis. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to know how to trade this in detail, check out this video. It works every time, the simplest trading strategy. Then you'll also know exactly how it works and how I enter my trades here. See you next time. Ciao, ciao.